Chapter 3 Different Kentuckys. A state is made up of both people and places. Let's look at each of those and see how they shaped Kentucky's past and are shaping its present. Remember, when we talk about the past, we mean things that happened some time ago. For example, when you entered the school for the first time, that became part of your own past. A state or nation has its special past too, and studying that past helps us learn about its history. The people of Kentucky. Kentucky now has about 4 million people living in it. That places it exactly in the middle of all the states in terms of population. Half of the states have a larger number of people and half have fewer. In the past, Kentucky did not have as many people as it does now. Soon after it became a state, about 221,000 men, women, and children called it home. It grew very fast at first. In fact, by 1840, Kentucky had become the sixth biggest state in the nation in population. Over the years, though, other states grew faster, so Kentucky is no longer one of the largest states. Look at document 3.1. How long did it take Kentucky's population to double the first time? Once it reached 1 million people, about how many years did it take to get to 2 million? Or from 2 million to the 4 million of today? Do you think it will grow as fast in the future? Why or why not? Who are these people who now live in Kentucky? Officially, of every 100 people in the state, 91 are white, 7 are black, and 2 are from other backgrounds, Asian, Indian, or other. People of Hispanic origin who live in Kentucky make up about 2 of every 100 Kentuckians. 200 years ago, Kentucky had a different population makeup. An immigrant is a person from another nation who comes to a place to live. The United States has been called a nation of immigrants. It is called that because everyone who settled the nation came here from other places, mostly Europe, Asia, or Africa. The new immigrants living in Kentucky now are just doing what other immigrants have done for hundreds of years. They are making a new home in Kentucky. Kentucky had a more varied population in the past than it does now. After all, everyone in the new state was likely an immigrant or the child of an immigrant. This is the caption underneath the picture on page 46. People of different backgrounds make up Kentucky's population. Document 3.1, Population of Kentucky. 1800, 220,955. 1820, 564,135. 1840, 779,828. 1860, 1,155,684. 1880, 1,648,690. 1900, 2,147,174. 1920, 2,416,630. 1940, 2,845,627. 1960, 3,038,156. 1980, 3,660,324. 2000, 4,041,769. At that time, 1 of every 100 Kentuckians 19 were African American. The rest came from European backgrounds. Of those from European backgrounds, about half had family ties to England, about 1/4 were from Scotland or Northern Ireland, about 1 in every 10 was Irish, about 1 in 20 was German, and about 1 in 20 came from Wales. What do you know about your family's history? If you lived in Kentucky right after it became a state, you would hear people speaking in a lot of languages or accents. A few Africans still spoke their native tongues. So too did some Germans. Even those speaking English might speak with a heavy Irish or Scottish accent. About 50 years after statehood, a large number of German and Irish immigrants came to Kentucky. They settled mostly in cities on the Ohio River. In Covington, in Kenton County at that time, for example, more than 1/4 of all the people had been born in another country. The same was true in Louisville. When immigrants speak in a different language today, it may seem strange to us, for we do not hear other languages as often. In the past, however, a variety of languages were commonly heard. Kentucky is like the United States in being made up of people from many backgrounds. Many faces form the state. Kentucky homes. Where do these Kentuckians live? For most of the state's history, they lived in rural areas, that is, in small towns or on farms. Almost half of all people in Kentucky still live in such places. The state is much more rural than the nation as a whole. When you ask many Kentuckians where they live, they may not answer with the name of the town or city. Instead, they will say they live in a certain county. Why would they say that? One of the reasons might be that Kentucky has so many counties. Kentucky's counties make up a state just as the 50 states make up the United States. Kentucky has 120 counties. It has more counties than any other state except for two, Texas and Georgia. That means that some counties are very small. In physical size, Pike County has the most land and Gallatin County the least. In population, the smallest is Robertson County, which had only 2,266 people in the whole county in the year 2000. The largest population is Jefferson County, Louisville, with 693,604. I'm going back to page 48 to read all the captions. Jefferson County, most populated county in Kentucky, 693,604 persons. Gallatin County, smallest county in area in Kentucky, 99 square miles. Robertson County, least populated county in Kentucky, 2,266 persons. Pike County, largest county in area in Kentucky, 788 square miles. Kentucky's largest and smallest counties, their size and population are very different. 2000 census data. One of every 6 Kentucky counties has fewer than 10,000 people. In some rural areas, no large town exists. Counties are the places people call home. Some counties were created for good reasons, some for not so good ones. Often a new county was set up because people lived too far from the county seat at a time when travel was slow. So they formed a new county. Sometimes people wanted to honor someone by naming a new county for that person. There were also counties that were divided into two because people did not get along with one another. Over the years, 120 counties were formed. See map 4.2. Some people think that number is too high. All agree that it would be very hard to reduce the number now by combining counties. Look in Appendix 1. When was your county created? Who or what was it named for? The appendix is in the back of the book. The land. The geography of Kentucky shaped the land and its history, just as people did. We have already read about how, in frontier times, mountains forced people to come here through Cumberland Gap or down the Ohio River. Other physical features of the state have shaped Kentucky in various ways as well. What is Kentucky like? How would you describe it? Is it a big state compared to other states? Is it long? Does it have high mountains? Are there many rivers? Is it hotter or colder than other states? What do you think? In size, Kentucky is not a large state. It contains 40,395 square miles and ranks 37th among the 50 states in area. Look at map 8.1, which shows where Kentucky is in the United States. You can see that it has a good location near the center of the nation. Many of the largest cities in America are close to Kentucky. Kentucky is a fairly long and narrow state. From one end to the other, from Pike County to Fulton County, is 458 miles. Looking at it from north to south, its widest place is 171 miles. The highest point in the state is Big Black Mountain in Harlan County, which is 4,145 feet tall. The lowest point is on the Mississippi River, where Kentucky is 237 feet above sea level. There, Kentucky touches one of the 7 states which are around it. In map 7.1 shows those states. Kentucky latitude and longitude. People find out where they are in the world by using latitude and longitude. What would be the numbers where you live? Here's Nelson County. See if you can figure out the latitude and longitude for Nelson County. We are right here between 86 and 85. So we would be 85 and a half. And then we are right here. This is 37. This would be 37 and a half. So we would be about 37 and 3/4. Kentucky's border was mostly formed by the time it became a state. Much of the border follows waterways. In fact, it is the only state that has rivers creating 3 sides of its boundary. The rivers that form Kentucky's borders are the Mississippi in the west, the Ohio in the north, and the Big Sandy and Tug Fork in the east. Mountains and a survey line complete the borders. Rivers do more than create Kentucky's borders. As you can see from map 3.3, Kentucky has many bodies of water. It has many streams and rivers that people can travel on than any other state except Alaska. Major rivers include the Ohio, Cumberland, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, Green, Licking, and others. They became early ways to travel and to take farm goods to market as well. The rivers provided water for people, crops, and animals. Towns and cities grew up near them. Those early rivers have changed over time. To help control flooding, dams have been built, and the dams have created large lakes in some places. Rivers still remain important for Kentuckians. Rivers have not always been friendly to the people in the state, however. They overflowed during the Great Flood of 1937. Water covered many Kentucky towns. In some places, it rained hard for almost 3 full days. The Ohio River rose 57 feet higher than its usual level. Look at a river near you and just think what would happen if it went up that high out of its banks. Where would all that water go? The 1937 flood caused problems for cities all along the rivers. At Covington, water covered a third of the city. The flood spread over 6 of every 10 houses in Louisville. People rode boats down Main Street. Thousands left their homes, which were covered in mud and water. At Paducah, almost the whole city lay underwater. It looked like a ghost town. Water covered towns all along the Ohio River, even smaller towns. At Lewisport in Hancock County, 151 of the homes had water in them. Only 17 did not. The Kentucky River flooded over half of Frankfort. The water made it necessary to take prisoners out of the jails to keep them from drowning. All over Kentucky, people lost everything that they owned. This is the caption above the picture. During the flood of 1937 in Louisville, high waters in front of the library made it appear that this statue was walking on water. It was 2 years later that the greatest loss of lives in one flood took place. This is the caption underneath map 3.3. Kentucky's rivers and lakes. The rivers have played a major part in the development of the state. Which river is closest to you? We're about right here. If you can see the shape of Nelson County. A wall of water from a sudden storm flooded Breathitt and Rowan counties in the eastern part of the state. It left about 80 people dead. Floods still remain a threat for parts of Kentucky, as the one in 1997 showed. Most of the time, rain is welcomed. A drought, when no rain falls, creates hard times as well. In 1930, there was a drought in Kentucky. Mayfield had no rain for a month, for example. Crops died and the green grass turned brown. People were glad to see rain then. It makes crops grow and, in fact, allows us to live. Nature has many faces. It gives life and can take it away. This is the caption underneath the picture. The 1955 floodwaters almost covered up Governor Happy Chandler's political ad. Climate. The temperature and the amount of rain and snow a place gets makes up its climate. Due to its location, Kentucky has a moderate or temperate climate. See map 3.4. It has 4 distinct seasons. It does not usually have the same extreme cold and deep snows of far northern states, nor the high heat of states in the deep south. Temperatures seldom go below 0 or above 100 degrees. Snowfall amounts usually are small. Overall, rainfall and snowfall totals are about 45 inches per year. Within the state, there are some differences in climate. For example, northern Kentucky temperatures tend to be about 5 degrees cooler than those in western Kentucky. A place such as Somerset in the south central part of Kentucky may get 10 or more inches of rain per year than Covington to the north. Average temperatures for the whole state go from the low 30s in January to the high 70s in July. Kentucky's climate allows a growing season of 7 to 8 months for crops every year. Geographic regions. Those who study geography often divide Kentucky into 5 or 6 areas or regions. Those are the Jackson Purchase, Pennyroyal or Pennyrile, Western Coalfields, Bluegrass, and Mountains or Eastern Coalfields. A very small region called the Knobs is now usually included in the Bluegrass. The regions are based on common features of the land in each one. Look at map 3.6 and see which region you live in, and then see what each area is like in its landscape. This is the caption underneath map 3.4. Climate similar to Kentucky's. If you went to the places marked on the map, you would find the climate there is to be a lot like Kentucky's. But remember that those places in the southern half of the world reverse all the seasons and have winter when we have summer. Climate is based on Köppen-Geiger system of climate classification. Jackson Purchase. The Jackson Purchase is the newest and smallest region of Kentucky. 26 years after Kentucky became a state, former Kentucky Governor Isaac Shelby and the future U.S. President Andrew Jackson bought the land in 1818 from the Chickasaw Indians for the United States. They paid the Native Americans $300,000 with payments spread over 15 years. It was called the Jackson Purchase. Out of that area, 8 Kentucky counties were created. This is the caption underneath map 3.5. The Jackson Purchase has water around it on 3 sides. One part of it is the New Madrid Bend, which you can only get to on land by going through another state. This is the map. This is the caption under the map 3.6. Geographers divide Kentucky into several physical regions. Looking at Kentucky that way, where do you live? And we are about right here. We're in the Knobs region. Document 3.2. Near Kentucky is New Madrid, Missouri. Over several months in 1811 and 1812, it was the center of perhaps the greatest earthquake ever to occur in the nation's history. The many quakes struck Kentucky very hard. Hundreds of miles away, walls cracked. The tremors caused bells to ring in churches as far away as Boston, Massachusetts. The Mississippi River flowed backwards briefly. Luckily, western Kentucky was not heavily populated at the time, so not many people died. Scientists think another earthquake will occur in that area sometime in the future. A man who was at the area at the time of the quake told what he saw. We felt the shock of an earthquake, accompanied by a rumbling noise resembling the distant firing of a cannon. The river was boiling, foaming, and roaring terrifically. Men, women, and children gave up in despair, some fainting, so great was their fear. The earth was in continual agitation, visibly waving as a gentle sea. A few months later, another man wrote about what he found. The surface of the ground was cracked in almost every direction and stood like yawning gulfs, so wide I could scarcely leap over them. On the shores of the river, the banks were cracked, trees broken off, and in many places, acres of ground sunk down so that the tops of the trees just appeared above the surface of the water. All nature appeared in ruins. Rivers from the borders of the Jackson Purchase on 3 sides, the Mississippi, Ohio, and Tennessee rivers. Within the purchase, a very small part of it is separated from the rest of the state by the waters of the Mississippi River. There are no bridges over that water, so that area can only be reached by going into Tennessee. That region is called New Madrid Bend. Overall, the Jackson Purchase area is the lowest part of Kentucky and has a lot of flat, fertile river bottom land. The Purchase is the part of Kentucky that is closest to the New Madrid earthquake fault line. There, in 1811 and 1812, a huge earthquake hit. See document 3.2. When it ended, a new lake had been formed, Reelfoot Lake in Fulton County, Kentucky, and in Tennessee, was made when water filled a great crack in the earth. Stephen Bishop. Stephen Bishop was born an enslaved person when he was 17 years old. When he was 17 years old, his owner bought Mammoth Cave. Bishop became a guide through its dark depths. A year later, his owner sold the cave and Bishop to another man. Over the next few years, Bishop became the most popular guide for the cave. A witty, self educated man, he knew history and knew how the cave had been formed. He also explored more of Mammoth Cave than any other person. The small but strong Bishop was the first to cross the bottomless pit, and he discovered many new parts of the cave. He also found some of the blind, eyeless fish that lived there in the total darkness. Bishop guided visitors to these new wonders. They carried their small lamps that burned lard or oil to make a faint light in the huge cave. One visitor recalled their lights chasing for a moment the shadows. In that cave, where there was no sunshine or rain or wind or any change in temperature all year long, they found a world to itself. Stephen Bishop's own world changed when his owner died. The owner's will said Bishop would be freed from slavery. Bishop had saved some money and bought land near the cave. He lived as a free man only briefly. He died a year later at the age of only 36. Bishop was buried near the entrance to the cave he loved. This is the caption underneath his picture at the top of the page. An artist's recreation of how Mammoth Cave explorer and guide Stephen Bishop might have looked. This is the caption underneath the picture in the middle of the page. Bishop used the smoke from a torch to put his name on the ceiling of Mammoth Cave. But he did something tricky. Do you know how you can read his name? Pennyroyal or Pennyrile. The largest physical region of Kentucky is named for a small plant. More than one-fourth of Kentucky's counties lie in this area of the state. Probably the best-known natural feature of the pennyroyal is Mammoth Cave, the longest underground cave system known in the world. Explorers have found so far some 340 miles of caverns. It became a U.S. national park in 1941. This cave and others were created out of the limestone rock. Water flowed through cracks in the rock over a very long time, forming open places. Later, the water drained away and caves were left. Western coal fields. This region got its name from the coal that lies under its surface. The mostly level land also offers good farming. Several rivers run through the western coal fields as well. Bluegrass. Kentucky is called the Bluegrass State. That name comes from the bluegrass that gives this region its name. In fact, though bluegrass did not always grow in Kentucky. People brought the grass to America from England, probably by accident. It started to grow in Kentucky very early. By the time Daniel Boone first came to Kentucky, bluegrass already had spread. It helped make the region such a good place for animals because horses and cows grazed on it. Bluegrass is really a dark green. Some people saw it and said it was blue-green and gave it its name. Now, all over the world, people call it Kentucky bluegrass. The physical bluegrass region has rich farmland, rolling hills, and deep gorges on the Kentucky River. The outer parts have more hills. That area is called the Knobs. This is the caption above the top picture. The Kentucky River has created the beautiful Palisades area in central Kentucky. This is the other caption. Thousands of years ago, the forces of nature formed a bridge from the rock. Natural Bridge State Park is in Powell County. Mountains, eastern coalfields. This region is one of the largest in Kentucky. It is part of a mountain chain that goes from Georgia in the south to New York in the north. Here lie the highest parts of Kentucky. The forest-covered hills in the area do not leave much level land in the hollows. Many state parks and a national forest have been created in the region because of the scenic beauty of the area. Natural Bridge is a rock formation high on a hill, while close to it, Red River Gorge offers scenery and hiking. One of the physical features of Kentucky is Cumberland Falls on the Cumberland River in Whitley County. On certain nights, something special happens there. When the water goes over the fall, the light from the full moon creates a moonbow. You probably have seen a rainbow in daylight. The moonbow at Cumberland Falls looks like that in some ways. It is the only moonbow in the western part of the world. The other natural feature that gives this region a name is coal. It is taken from the earth in two ways. One way is to one way to mine coal is through deep underground mines. The other way, called strip mining, is to remove the dirt and take the coal from the surface. Cultural or human regions. Perhaps a better way to understand Kentucky is to divide it into regions in a different way. The regions we just read about are based on natural or physical features of the state. If you ask people from the northern part of the state where they live, though, they will probably not say the geographic region of the bluegrass. They are likely to say northern Kentucky. People who live in the Pennyroyal region will probably say West Kentucky. So, another way to look at regional differences is to divide the state as people would if you asked them. That might not be very exact, but it shows better how people think of themselves. Culture is a way of life shared by a group of people. It includes what they believe, what they do, and what they have done over the years. A state may have a certain overall culture. Various parts of the state may have their own special culture. Kentucky has 7 different cultural areas: Appalachia, or Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, the Bluegrass, South Central Kentucky, Louisville, West Kentucky, and the Jackson Purchase. Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky. Because the Appalachian Mountains cover the eastern part of the state, some people call that area Appalachia. Others simply refer to it as Eastern Kentucky. Either way, it is a place of hills and mountains with few large cities. Only 2 towns have a population of more than 10,000, Ashland and Middlesboro. Towns about half that size are London, Corbin, Williamsburg, Pikeville, Hazard, and Moorhead. More than any other region in the state, Eastern Kentucky has been shaped by its past, by its geography, and by writers from outside the area. Eastern Kentucky was one of the last parts of the state to be settled. It was hard to get there because of the hills. Slowly, people began to move in because it had good hunting, good water, and good land in the valleys. These settlers had small farms, just like others in most of Kentucky. Over the years, however, the region became more cut off from the rest of the state and did not grow. Some bitter feuds were started. A feud is a fight that continues for a long time between different families or groups. The most famous feud is the Hatfield-McCoy feud in Pike County. Many others raged on for years as well. Hundreds of people were killed in them. A stereotype is saying that the people in a group are all alike. It may not be true at all, or it may be true about only a few people. For example, when you talk to people from outside of Kentucky, they might ask you if you own racehorses. Their stereotype of Kentucky is that all Kentuckians own horses. They do not, of course. Suppose someone came to your classroom and heard a student singing poorly. Then, if that visitor told people that everyone in your class was a bad singer, the person would have created a stereotype about your class. Is that fair? How do you avoid stereotypes? This is the caption underneath the top picture. Some national stereotypes of Kentucky grew out of the feuds. This picture shows the Hatfield family of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. But the person who made this photograph had the people pose this way to fit the violent hillbilly image people had of the feud. Do you think that the little boy on the right side normally carried a gun? This is the caption underneath the lower picture. Another stereotype of Kentucky came about when people made illegal whiskey. They did it at night and called it moonshine. Appalachia became stereotyped more than a century ago. People from outside the region came in and wrote stories and then made films about it. They said it was a place where everyone was poor, talked differently, and fought in feuds. That was not true. On Once the hillbilly image was formed, though, it was difficult for the region to overcome that unfair stereotype. At about the same time, the region began to change. People began to mine coal in large mountains. Almost overnight, quiet farmland became coal camps. People left their farms to dig coal in the mines. Many people moved to the region and its population went up. Coal mining is not as important now as it once was. Tourists and visitors to the many scenic parts of the region are more important than ever. Still, to many people, Appalachia means coal. Northern Kentucky. The three northern Kentucky counties of Campbell, Kenton, and Boone, and the smaller rural counties around them form northern Kentucky. For the longest time, the people there tended to see themselves as more tied to Cincinnati, Ohio, across the river than to Kentucky. The Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky International Airport is the largest in the state and is located in Kentucky. Once, Newport and Covington were the second and third largest cities in the state. The area grew slowly during much of the 20th century, and first Lexington and then other cities passed them in size. Recently, however, northern Kentucky has been one of the growth areas of the state. The cities of Florence, Fort Thomas, Erlanger, Independence, and Burlington have joined Covington and Newport as cities with more than 10,000 people. Now, northern Kentucky is an area that grows more on its own, not just as part of Cincinnati across the river. Northern Kentucky University and Thomas More College bring students to their halls of learning. The region has become the North American headquarters for Toyota, as well as the National Center for Ashland Oil. This is the caption underneath the photo on page 62. A view of the northern Kentucky riverfront in Covington on the Ohio River. The historic Roebling Bridge, opened in 1867, is in the background. Northern Kentucky is one part of what has been called the Golden Triangle in Kentucky. If you drew a mark that went down Interstate I-75 to Lexington, then west to Interstate I-64 to Louisville, and then from there to Interstate I-71 in Covington, that would be the Golden Triangle. It is called that because much of the state's recent growth has taken place there. bluegrass. If you started with Lexington at the center and then drew a circle that stretched 40 miles in all directions, the circle would include most of the bluegrass. Cities with a population of over 10,000 in that area include Richmond, Frankfort, Nicholasville, Georgetown, Winchester, and Danville. This area of Kentucky was the first to be settled and includes many historic places. Danville was where statehood was talked about and started. At Frankfort, the old state capitol stands, and it is there that we see where people ran the state for 80 years. Rebuilt forts at Harrodsburg and Boonesboro remind us of the frontier. Also near Harrodsburg is Shakertown at Pleasant Hill. It takes us back to the time when a religious group lived and worked in its now quiet buildings and grounds. Cane Ridge in Bourbon County has the church that was at the center of one of the greatest religious events in American history, the Great Revival in 1801. The full story of such events can be seen at the Kentucky History Center in Frankfort. Many old homes also dot the region. People can walk the same floors and look around them at the same walls that the leaders of long ago walked on and saw daily. From these early times to the present, the bluegrass has also been known for its horse farms. More than 180 years ago, a person from England wrote, "Their horses are the best in the United States." They continue to be. Racetracks like the historic Keeneland Race Course in Lexington prove that to be true every year. The Kentucky Horse Park near Lexington tells the story of horses. This is the caption underneath the top photo. For some 80 years, this beautiful building served as the capital of Kentucky. It is now called the Old Capitol. This is the caption underneath the lower photo. The religious group called the Shakers no longer exists in Kentucky, but their massive and beautiful buildings still remain to remind us of the Shaker presence. Villages were at South Union in Logan County and Pleasant Hill in Mercer County. Rock fences were used early on to keep horses on their farms. These fences were built first by Irish workers, then later by skilled black builders. Some say that Kentucky has the largest number of such stone fences in the world. Later, they were replaced by wood plank fences on horse farms and in other places in the region. In addition to horses, tobacco and other crops are important on bluegrass farms. Most people who work in the area do not work on horse farms. Many work in what are called service and information industries. Those are businesses that provide a service to people in hospitals, banks, schools, or government. In Frankfort, the capital of the state, workers help serve all of Kentucky. Many doctors, lawyers, and bankers work in Lexington. The region has also the region also has some of the oldest and best colleges and universities in Kentucky. State supported schools include the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky State University in Frankfort, and Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond. Private colleges set up more than 175 years ago include Transylvania University in Lexington, Centre College in Danville, and Georgetown College. Several other colleges were formed later. The professors and the other professionals who work in the area make the region a very highly educated part of Kentucky. Other people who work in the bluegrass make things from computer printers produced by Lexmark in Lexington to cars built by the large Toyota plant near Georgetown. The region's central location, airport, and good interstate and parkway roads have helped it grow. The heart of the bluegrass remains Lexington, the second largest city in the state. In the first 30 years after Kentucky became a state, Lexington was the major city. In fact, it was the largest city west of the mountains for a time. That changed when steamboats on rivers became important. Lexington is not on a major river. It still is the largest city in the eastern United States that is not on a major body of water. Lexington went into decline for a time. In the 1950s, however, it began to grow again, doubling in size over the next 30 years. The caption under the top photograph: Kentucky is known as the horse capital of the world. The caption underneath the lower photograph: Workers use the rocks from fields to build rock fences. Many of those fences still remain today. Lexington was one of the fastest growing cities in the nation at that time. The caption underneath the top photograph: A popular recreation area in south central Kentucky is Lake Cumberland. South central Kentucky. Not eastern, not western, nor the bluegrass. This part of Kentucky stretches from Somerset in the east past Glasgow and Bowling Green in the west. In between those cities are small farms and major tourist places on Lake Cumberland and Barren River State Parks. Though often not mentioned when people speak of Kentucky, the region is just as important as any other. The largest city is Bowling Green, which is also the fourth largest city in the state. There, Western Kentucky University offers higher education to people of the region. Other schools include Campbellsville University and Lindsey Wilson College in Columbia. Nearby, Mammoth Cave brings large numbers of visitors, and the tourist trade helps people make a living as well. Just north of the Mammoth Cave area is a part of Kentucky whose people may view themselves as being part of several regions. The cities of Elizabethtown and Radcliffe in Hardin County and Bardstown in Nelson County may be part of the outer bluegrass or of the south central region or even tied to Louisville. However, they have a rich history and play an important part in Kentucky. The caption under the lower photograph: The largest cave system in the world is Mammoth Cave. The caption under map 3.7: Kentucky State Parks and Resort Areas from 2004 data. Abraham Lincoln was born near Hodgenville, not far from Elizabethtown. Nearby in Bardstown is the house called Federal Hill. Some say it was the source of the state song, My Old Kentucky Home. Near Bardstown, workers produce another product people think of in connection with Kentucky: bourbon whiskey. The state ships bourbon all over the world. Near Radcliffe is Fort Knox. It is an army base best known as the place where the nation's gold is stored and guarded. Not as well known is the fact that during wartime, some of the nation's greatest treasures were sent there for protection: the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and more. Those items were taken back to Washington, D.C. when it was safe. The caption underneath the top photo: The nation stores many of its gold reserves in Fort Knox. Louisville. Louisville is by far the largest city in the state, see map 3.9, and has been since 1830. Part of the reason for its size lies in geography. All the way down the Ohio River, there is only one place where boats cannot go. That is called the Falls of the Ohio, where the river drops more than 20 feet within 2 miles. That is where Louisville grew up. It was named for a king of France who helped America during the Revolutionary War. Boats had to stop, unload their cargo, and then reload it on the other side of the falls. Louisville became the place where all that took place and grew as a result. Later, a canal was built so that ships could go around the falls and move down the river faster. Still later, the first bridge beyond Cincinnati to cross the Ohio River was built in Louisville. That bridge and railroads brought more people. By 1850, Louisville was the 10th biggest city in the United States. One of every 5 Kentuckians lives in or near Louisville, and it now ranks as the 16th largest U.S. city. Louisville is known all over the world for something that takes place there each year on the first Saturday in May. The caption underneath the lower photograph. On the first Saturday in May, the world watches Churchill Downs to see which thoroughbred will win the Kentucky Derby. That event has happened in the city every year since 1875. Do you know what it is? On that day in May, 3-year-old horses run in the Kentucky Derby. It may be the world's most famous horse race. There are a few horse farms in the Louisville area, but the racetrack of Churchill Downs brings fame to the Derby winner every year. Louisville is also known for other things. Much of the heavy industry of the state is located there, and it produces many of the goods Kentuckians make. For more on that, see Chapter 8. The caption underneath the top map, Urban Expansion in Louisville. This map shows how Louisville changed over time and grew during a 40-year period. Interstate highways shown for reference. And this is the caption underneath the lower photograph. The waterfront of the state's largest city, Louisville. The caption underneath map 3.9. Kentucky's most populous cities, 2003 data. John James Audubon. The world-famous painter of birds and animal life spent many of his best years in Kentucky. John James Audubon was born in Haiti to French parents and spent much of his early life in France. Later, he came to America, met the woman he would marry, and moved to Louisville to operate a store. 3 years later, he went to Henderson, Kentucky. All 4 of Audubon's children were born in Kentucky during the 8 years he lived in the state. He and his wife Lucy felt their years here were the happiest of their lives. Audubon also spent much of his time in the woods. There he painted the fine bird portraits that made him famous. Audubon was a better artist than he was a businessman. His stores failed, and he was briefly jailed for not paying his bills. After that, the Audubons left Kentucky and went elsewhere. They had little money. Finally, he sailed to England and got his pictures printed in beautiful color in his great work, The Birds of America. That won him fame, respect, and wealth. Audubon died in New York, but his wife moved back to Kentucky to be with a sister-in-law in Shelbyville. She died there. John James Audubon's work lives on through a state park and a museum in Henderson, and most of all in his paintings of birds. This is the caption underneath his portrait. John James Audubon painted many of his famous wildlife pictures while living in Kentucky. This is the caption next to the bird. Audubon's portrait of a wild turkey. Louisville also has the University of Louisville and the private colleges of Bellarmine and Spalding. The people of the city have many cultural events to choose from as well. They can go to museums, to the opera or ballet, to a play or a concert, or do other things that a large city offers. Many of those events have taken place in the Kentucky Center. West Kentucky. Going west from I-65 all the way to the Jackson Purchase, the western part of Kentucky is the most varied in the state. It has coal mining, yet it also has rich farmland. Crops grown there include corn and soybeans, as well as tobacco. The region has a big military base at Fort Campbell. It also features some of the best places to have outdoor fun in the state. Between western Kentucky and the Jackson Purchase is the area known as Land Between the Lakes. Dams built on Tennessee and Cumberland rivers created the huge lakes named Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake. People from Kentucky and other states enjoy boating and fishing there. Lakes at Rough River and Nolin River and at several smaller places offer water sports to people in other parts of the area. A Shaker Village at South Union and a state park honoring John James Audubon at Henderson represent the region's history. Owensboro is the largest city in the region and the third largest in the state. It features an art center, museums, good barbecue, and the private colleges of Kentucky Wesleyan and Brescia. Two-year community colleges dot the region also. Other cities larger than 10,000 in population include Hopkinsville, Henderson, Madisonville, and Fort Campbell. Bobby Ann Mason. Where you are born may influence your life in many ways. Bobby Ann Mason was born in Mayfield in western Kentucky. She grew up on a farm and became the first person in her family to go to college. After college, she went to New York. Mason later taught at a college herself, but did not like it. What she liked and wanted to do was to write stories about her Kentucky. Success did not come easily. 19 times she sent articles to be printed in a magazine, and 19 times she was turned down. On the 20th try, the magazine accepted her work and printed it. She was 40 years old. Her efforts showed that if you really want to do something, you must keep trying. She became an author because she didn't give up. Mason has since written many books. Some of them have won national prizes. One book, In Country, was made into a movie starring Bruce Willis. Almost all of her books come out of her Western Kentucky background. They tell about rural, small town, working class people. Bobby Ann Mason said she left Mayfield because I wanted to go places and see the world. She did travel a lot, but she never forgot the things that shaped her. She said, "We're free to roam because we've always known where home is." Finally, she did come home again. She and her husband live in Anderson County, Kentucky. There, Mason can read and can write more books that help us understand who we are. This is the caption next to the photo. This is Kentucky Dam. Dams on the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers form two large lakes. The area in western Kentucky between Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake is called Land Between the Lakes. Jackson Purchase. The Purchase came to be part of Kentucky later and in a different way than other regions in the state. Its land patterns and even its roads were set up differently. Also, the people who settled there came north out of Tennessee. Most of the other parts of the western half of Kentucky were settled by people moving west from other sections of Kentucky. The three largest cities are Paducah, Murray, and Mayfield. One of the state's regional universities is Murray State University. Resort parks at Ken Lake and Kentucky Dam Village bring tourists to the region. Many people go to the small town of Fancy Farm in Graves County every year for a picnic that brings in political leaders from all over the state to talk to voters. Regionalism. What does it mean for Kentucky and its people that the state has many counties and several regions? On the good side, it may help us feel that we belong somewhere, that a place is our home. We may feel part of the land. Those counties and regions may have other effects, however. When we talk about Kentucky, we should remember that there are many Kentuckys, not just one. Each county and each region is different. The distances and those regional divisions may also mean that we in Kentucky have to work very hard to live together. Covington in northern Kentucky is closer to Canada than it is to the most western part of the state. Pikeville in the east is nearer the Atlantic Ocean than it is to the far parts of the Purchase. Students at Murray State University in the west live closer to the University of Mississippi than to the University of Kentucky. Often, towns in areas far away from the Golden Triangle feel that they do not get enough attention. Kentucky has to make a special effort to live up to the first part of its motto: United we stand, divided we fall. Document 3.3. What do these documents tell us about how Kentuckians view themselves? They were written over a period of 150 years. Do you agree or disagree with what they say? My dear honeys, heaven is a Kentucky of a place. The Christian Traveler, 1828. Daughter of the East, Mother of the West, link that binds North and South. Quote by Josiah Combs, All That Is Kentucky, 1915. No matter how far or how long her children roam, once a Kentuckian, always a Kentuckian. Lorene L. Butler, My Old Kentucky Home, 1929. Kentuckians are different. M.B. Morton, Kentuckians are different, 1938. I live here in Ohio and I'll die here, but I want my wife to be put on my but I want my wife to put on my tombstone. Here lies Stanley, but he'd rather be in Kentucky. 1976 statement cited in Wade Hall, The Kentucky Book, 1979. What would you say about Kentucky if someone asked you? Kentucky names. In counties and regions all across Kentucky, some small towns have special names. Sometimes we do not know why they have their names. Sometimes we do. Are there towns near you with names that are unusual? Do you know how they got these names? Some of the unusual names in certain places are Monkey's Eyebrow, Ballard County, 88, Barron County, Bug Tussle, Monroe County, Mousy, Knott County, Woot Flaria, Owsley County. There are also towns in Kentucky named for cities in foreign countries. Can you think of some of those? Kentucky has a Moscow, a Paris, a London, a Cadiz, an Athens, a Versailles, and a Berlin. For example, although we might not say the names in the same way that the people in the foreign countries say them. What would you name a town if you had the chance? By whatever name, in whatever region, Kentucky places are very special to the people who live in them. The caption, The Federal Hill Estate in Bardstown, part of my old Kentucky home, State Park.